Good day, my name is Lalendle and I will be presenting development of a monitoring and evaluation framework for sustainability assessment of road freight transport systems in South Africa. Sustainable transport has been a fundamental development objective on numerous global platforms. The advance of megatrends such as globalization, population growth, digitalization, and demographic changes affects transport and its demand. Even with recent events like the COVID-19 pandemic, we've seen a migration towards the digitalization trend, an example of the increase that has simultaneously increased the demand for transport is online shopping. Transport essentially is a means to an end, a derived demand for the movement of goods and individuals for purposes of trade. Two studies similarly portrayed that many levels of society would result in chaos if basic utilities such as the supply of food, the delivery of medication to hospitals, and the handling of rubbish were to come to a halt for a week. These are small and sometimes overlooked essential values road freight transport offers society. There are opportunities for freight transport sector to create systems that are economically viable, socially equitable, and environmentally conserving. Many industries have made efforts to address issues of sustainability in these sectors, particularly in the line of supply chain management and transportation. There's been initiatives towards green design, green sourcing, green manufacturing, green transport, and even some supply chains have incorporated reverse logistics. Despite the many positive initiatives towards sustainability, there are still negative impacts of road freight transportation present as a result of all the logistics and industrial activity. Environmentally, one example is greenhouse gas emissions. In South Africa, the transport sector contributes 10.8% to the total emissions in the country. Road transport accounts for 91.2% of that 10.8%, rail transport contributing 1.7%, and other modes of transport such as maritime and air contributing 7.73%. Socially, the costs of transport include road crashes, air pollution, physical inactivity, and time taken away from the family while commuting. Also, vulnerability to fuel price increases. Many of these negative impacts fall disproportionately onto social groups who are also least likely to own or drive vehicles. The traffic congestion also imposes economic costs to individuals and businesses due to the time wasted stuck in traffic. The research problem statement is that there are monitoring and evaluation frameworks that investigate the sustainability of transport systems. However, there are gaps in literature around monitoring and evaluation frameworks that assess sustainability holistically. And there is even less literature around sustainability assessment frameworks developed for South Africa to be used by South African transporters. This research, therefore, sought to develop a monitoring and evaluation framework that guides holistic sustainability assessment of road freight transport systems of transporters operating in South Africa. The first research question was, how is sustainability defined in the road freight transport sector? 2. What frameworks are there to measure the sustainability of road freight transport systems both globally and in South Africa? The third, do the current available frameworks assess sustainability holistically for road freight transport systems? 4. How can a monitoring and evaluation framework be developed for sustainability assessment of road freight transport systems in South Africa? And lastly, what sustainability best practices are used internationally in the road freight transport sector? The research design comprised of mixed methods, both qualitative and quantitative methods. Primarily, data was collected from secondary sources, the main method being a systematic literature review. The tools used for data analysis was Excel, Atlas TI version 8 for content analysis of research question 1, as well as Scopus and Web of Science bibliometrics in the systematic literature review. This data collection method was used for research question 2 and 3. A systematic literature review is a type of review that uses systematic methods to collect secondary data by identifying, selecting, and critically appraising research studies. It includes synthesizing the findings. The systematic literature review should follow a clearly defined protocol or plan where the criteria is clearly stated before the review is conducted. The protocol this study followed was as numbered 1 to 5. In terms of the inclusion criteria, there is a nice quote by Socrates that says, "Knowledge is always proportionate to the realm from which it is gained." The academic databases were chosen from recommendations for literature on transport and logistics management by different university libraries. The exclusion criterion was passenger transport, documents or articles that could not be accessed, as well as documents and articles that were duplicated on the different databases and non-relevant articles. The last criteria that was used to exclude was databases which the search phrase was too long and therefore no results were generated. So step 1 of the protocol was to formulate a search phrase, which was done as appearing on the slide. Step 2 of the protocol was to do scoping, which is preliminarily using the search phrase to see what is out there. From the all fields results, the search phrase returned about 200,000 documents in total from all the databases combined. Subnet African journals, the search phrase that was inserted in it was too large and therefore nothing was returned. Step 3 for this systematic literature review was selecting the filter category. The filter category selected was Untitled. From that, a total of 95 documents was returned, of which 31 of the 95 fit the inclusion criteria. Research question 2 looked at what frameworks are there to measure sustainability of road freight transport systems both globally and in South Africa. It was found that many articles from the search results modeled frameworks of decision-making methods such as cost-benefit analysis, multi-criteria decision analysis, and feasibility risk assessment, just to name a few that appeared. The articles also contained indicator-based frameworks and conceptual frameworks. To look into what frameworks are there in South Africa, a separate search phrase was used and only returned back one result in the Untitled filter. The search was then expanded and filtered by all fields, which resulted 41 documents. The results were not written from a South African perspective and addressed their research problem in relation to another country. The documents did not include or mention South Africa, and therefore in relation to what frameworks are there to measure sustainability of road freight transport systems in South Africa, these documents were regarded as irrelevant. Research question 3's search sought to investigate if the frameworks assess sustainability holistically. 15 articles met the inclusion criteria from its search phrase. The question used to review or analyze the articles were: 1. What are the focus areas of the study? 2. What aspects of the triple bottom line are addressed? 3. Does it assess sustainability holistically? 4. What is the gap in research related to research question 3? Honing into the question of if the frameworks were holistic, the findings were that 97.5% of the articles did not assess sustainability holistically, but rather it was found that many of the frameworks tended to have a dominant, if not sole focus on ecological related matters of the triple bottom line. Therefore, research question 4 looked at developing a monitoring and evaluation framework for South African freight transporters. Began by taking the operational definition of the study that was developed through research question 1 and South Africans' vision for sustainable transport as to guide the objectives of the developed framework. The framework was developed from the perspective of the freight transporter to assess their system's sustainability. The structure of the framework was from Sabo and Verhili's 2012 framework, The themes within the framework was from the study's operational definition and South Africa's vision for sustainable transport. The content within the framework was from the various literature reviewed in the systematic literature review. I have provided the whole framework in the presentation, but due to time constraints, I'll only be going through one theme in detail. But before that, I'd just like to explain the structure of the framework a bit. The first column contains the triple bottom line dimension being focused on. On this slide, we can see that is the social dimension. The second column is the themes that come from the study's operational definition and South Africa's vision for sustainable transport, as mentioned before. Then we have the strategic objective or goal for each theme, followed by the inputs needed towards achieving that goal, and a few measures. So the triple bottom line focus on this one is themes related to the economic dimension of the triple bottom line. And on this one are environmental themes. The theme that I'll be taking you guys through is safety under the social dimension. So the strategic objective is to provide and maintain safe systems of work for the driver and vehicle through effective safety management practices. Decrease the number of annual fatalities and injuries recorded as relating to one's road freight transport system. The inputs needed for this strategic goal would be reasonable driving hours, monitoring and effective consequences to traffic offenses, RTMS certification, roadworthy vehicles, regular maintenance on vehicles, vehicle safety technology such as remote speed sensing, collision damage mitigation, braking system, and tracking devices, as well as LED lights on vehicles and safe loading and offloading practices. So the outputs of these inputs would then be non-fatigued drivers from the reasonable driving hours, reduction in the number of road incidences, and this could happen from the frequent monitoring and effective consequences to traffic offenses that are recorded, improved driver behavior coming from the RTMS certification and the monitoring of traffic offenses, road management systems that promote safety and efficiency from regular maintenance on vehicles as well as roadworthy vehicles, and a decrease in vehicle breakdowns from your roadworthy vehicles and regular maintenance. And overall, these inputs would give us a safer road environment. The measures of these inputs could be the number of accidents and injuries caused by one's road freight transport system annually, the number of driver offenses reported annually, the number of road violations registered annually, a percentage of cost towards vehicle technology interventions, and the number of loading and offloading incidences, such as accidents that may occur, safety accidents that may occur. Yes. The research is still a work in progress. We are currently finalizing research question for the development of the framework. The next steps are to conclude the framework by preparing a few questions for it to be reviewed by industry experts. I think this then would be a good time for me to extend an invitation to any of you who would like, from your experience, to add their inputs to review and improve the framework. If you are interested, please contact me using the email on the screen. Then finally, the research will be concluded by answering its last research question, looking at international best practices for the road freight transport sector. The plan is to submit the research mid-December. Yeah. Thank you so much for taking your time to listen to the presentation. Any questions?